I used to think I just had these skinny calf genetics and my calves were never destined to grow or hold any size. And regardless of what I would do to try to make them bigger, it was always just a little bit and only temporary. That is until recently I discovered something, an adjustment I made that has allowed them to gain size nearly effortlessly and hold that size. So this is what I did to grow my calves permanently. It's gonna blow your mind and your calves. Sorry to make a short story long, but I want to share with you the techniques I used to try to grow my calves that didn't work or just left me with minor temporary results that dissolved within a couple of days. I feel like it's going to be good to share these because if you're going through the same experiences or you're struggling to grow or add definition to your calves and you're thinking like, why is this not working? Well, then maybe we can have something to relate about. You know, it's just silly. Anyways, in an attempt to target and hopefully grow my calves in the early days, I tried everything weight training related, from weighted standing, straight leg calf raises, bent at the knee calf presses, etc. Now this was over the course of like 10, 15 years, seriously, where I would just be like, okay, it's time to target calves today. What's the method we're gonna use? And I had weeks of consistent training just with like high reps, low weight, or with higher intensity, high weight, lower reps. My calves did seem to respond to this weight training, but it seemed only a minute amount for the amount of effort I was putting in to train my calves. And it seemed like my gains would literally evaporate within about a week of not keeping up with any of the calf weight training exercises. So my calves went from very small to small to very small to small, and it was just kind of like never getting anywhere. So once again, making this super long 20-year story short, I could take all day talking about this. It's so stupid. I got into jumping or tricking, you know, doing flips on the ground. But once again, doing tricks and flips and stuff was pretty tasking on the body, and it required me to have many rest days. And I noticed my calves never really had enough stimulation constantly to actually really get much bigger. They were a little bit bigger, but it was still small, very small. So bear with me. Then I got into shuffling, which is essentially just, you know, every day I'm shuffling. If you guys have been watching my channel, you guys have seen some of my shuffling tutorials, you know, that dance. But when I started doing that 30 minutes a day, about like 4 or 5 days a week, I really started to notice my calves actually grew beyond where I ever had them back when I was trying to grow them with weight training or even jumping and doing flips. And I was just like, wow, shuffling, it's the secret, which indicated to me that my calves seemed to respond better to higher repetition. I mean, like really high repetition, you know, 30 minutes of shuffling, that's gonna be probably over 1,000 steps easily. So that would have really worked for me if I would have kept up with it. But when I kind of got interested in doing other stuff and I stopped shuffling quite frequently, my calves went back to their normal size, very small. And this is when I stumbled across the solution. And it wasn't on purpose. I wasn't looking to grow my calves. Rather, what I was doing was studying gait or walking or running patterns. And what I found out looking at my running pattern was that I was a severe heel striker when it came to running. What this means is when I would run, I would naturally overstride and throw my heel out, landing on my heel before I took my next step, absorbing all that impact through the heel, essentially even slowing myself down, and then I would roll across the foot to the front before I take my next step. Not only was this an inefficient way to run, but it was also me taking the impact through the heel, being more impactful on the joints, and allowing me to bypass most of the calf activation in each step. What I did is I really focused on the cycling pattern of the legs and feet, bringing my feet around and up just about to the center of gravity down my body, where then I would allow my leg to drop, landing on more of the mid and forefront of the foot. Not necessarily the toes, but the mid and forefront, while keeping my ankle slightly plantar flexed to help absorb that shock. And then pushing back and off to the next step, cycling, repeating. So in summary, by fixing my running pattern and making it more efficient, I was landing more on my mid and forefront of my foot to absorb that impact, which would therefore activate my calf significantly more than heel striking with my heel out in front of me. And by doing this over the course of just a couple of days, I really started to notice my calves were feeling it. And I noticed significant response in the growth of them, especially over the first couple of weeks. and continuing running like this, it kept my calves at this optimal new strength and size. Now this is one of the solutions that I eventually come back around to, but what happened after this is I eventually got into more long distance running and I ended up getting shoes that have very squishy heels. Now there's nothing wrong with using these shoes every once in a while per se. I mean, it really helps you when you're on the cement to just absorb some impact, but because the heels were so squishy, it kind of allowed me to sink back into this heel striking pattern just because I was fine smashing my heels because it's so squishy, you know what I mean? And at the time I really didn't care much, but I watched my calves basically deteriorate back to where they were before. So this comes full circle back around when I finally got into walking and running patterns once again when I did my barefoot shoe experiment video. After retraining myself to run poorly in these, once I got to the barefoot shoe experiment, just wearing these around for a little bit and going only on like a mile run, I noticed I was heel striking a lot more. Because there's like no cushion in these give you a lot more response if you're running poorly. So I like had to switch back to running on this midfoot in order to absorb the impact of each step. And doing this, just running a little bit here and there, I noticed my calves seemed to gain their size back to where they were when I fixed my gait the first time. Once again, regardless of the shoe, this just made me like have to do that to absorb that impact. Keep in mind, a mile run where I was running more properly and efficiently, that's over 1,000 steps. So essentially over 1,000 reps of these mini calf raises. Like I mentioned before, I found that this higher volume really helped my calves respond well. So naturally, just by fixing this running pattern, it almost felt effortless. Like I'm not focusing on my calves, but they're being properly challenged secondarily to just running in general. Now, what if you absolutely hate running and you just don't want to run? Well, something else that I found out during this whole entire experiment is that when I started walking off-road more, that is on the grass or on like a dirt trail, anywhere with just unpredictable natural surface, I found that over many steps, it seemed like my calves were feeling way more stimulated than just walking on the flat cement, especially using these barefoot shoes. All the bumps and inclines and declines, etc., really help balance and work out the whole entire muscle group as a whole in the lower leg, and I found it really helped me over many steps walking, just stimulate, develop, and hold that size to my calves there. Now bonus, if this sounds absolutely atrocious to you and you're just like, I hate walking, I hate running, I need something structured to do, then my advice to you based on my experience for what worked for me was high volume, high reps. So you want to find something that would be fun for you to do on a more frequent basis. Now I also found that stuff like shuffling, that variation between the angles seem to stimulate the calves better than just doing like straight calf raises. So I think a little bit of variation that I would also get naturally just from walking off-road and then just running as well, because you know there's always little micro adjustments to be made. I think it does work better than just straight doing calf raises like on the stairs or something. So if you do want to just do straight calf raises, maybe just kind of change the angle up a little bit here and there. Nothing drastic, don't like there it is. All right, let me know in the comments if you guys have tried anything that really worked well for you regarding stimulating the calves or any advice you have, etc. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Hope you all have a great day. Peace. I will see you all in the next video.